Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite. It's Only a Paper Moon. And What You Leave Behind. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 7. This is the Season 7 review special. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing good. I'm having a good day.
It's a beautiful overcast day in Los Angeles, and it's kind of refreshing, I think.
Yes, it's nice. I think this morning it was a little bit wet on the ground, so I think it rained or something last night where I'm at. And I like it when it's cool and still sunny.
Yeah,
you seem sunny but overcast.
You seem like the kind of guy that likes the sunny days. You like the warm days, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes, but it depends. Because when I was young, I remember walking to school on chilly days and just I liking to bulk up and having an extra jacket on and stuff.
Do you remember walking on the crunchy grass where in the morning when you walk to school and the grass is crunchy from the ice? That was cool.
Oh no, I remember those crunchy leaves that would be piled up and all, crunching up on top of those on your way.
Yeah,
like popping. It was like popping bubble wrap. It had that same
totally.
It hit that same nerve.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So they're thinking, they're like, wait, I could have sworn I heard them say season 7. Yeah, this is our season 7 Deep Space Nine review special. We hope you enjoy it. We're just going to, go back and reminisce about season 7 and how glorious or inglorious it was. It was glorious. We will start off with episode 1. Yeah. Actually, it was kind of a 3-part thing. Remember the first 3 episodes where they introduce Ezri Dax. We have Image in the sand. At the end of the episode, she shows up and says, "Don't you remember me? It's me, Dax." And then we had Shadows and Symbols where you guys are walking through the desert. You and Ben Sisko and Joseph Sisko and Ezri Dax. And then the third one was after Image. You remember, how well do you remember those first 3 episodes in that little block there?
I remember it well because of the fact that Ezri was introduced in as a character. So she really takes the majority of my memory as far as that 3-episode arc. Also remember us being at Sisko's, so seeing Brock Peters and being at Sisko's in her Creole kitchen was another thing that sticks out in my memory. I called it the gumbo in the jungle. But I felt like she really ate up the screen when Nicole came in. She did a fantastic job of fitting in right away and playing a character that was curious and vulnerable, but yet confident in certain situations and endearing herself to the other characters pretty quickly.
Yeah, for me, the iconic scene was, there are 2. One was when Ezri Dax first walks in. She says, "Don't you recognize me? It's me, Dax." And she just like suddenly lights up the episode in the last scene of the episode. Suddenly, like, the episode just feels lighter and more beautiful. And she has this great smile and the great eyes. And it's hard for somebody to have one line in an episode, but for it to be so memorable and so iconic. But it really was for me. And then the other one was just the 4 of you walking through the sand, and remembering you telling us the stories of like, dude, it was August and we were in the desert and we were wearing robes. And I'm watching poor Captain Sisko's hand in the sand and coming out with all the sand stuck to his arm. And I'm thinking that's because that's a sweaty arm, poor guy. It's 100 degrees out there or more.
Yeah. But those shots were kind of iconic. It was great to watch and that's part of the beginning of this journey too. It was a closure of the beginning of the closure of what Sisko has had to reveal, and what was being revealed to him as far as the prophets, and his vision starting to become more profound. And I think that's what makes the 7 seasons, the beginning of the 7 seasons, so good.
Yeah.
Is that it just started you on this journey of you got to know the characters are fully set in stone as far as at this point, so we already know who they are, but it's now about this journey about where they're going, and a lot of closure to uh, uh, relationships and conflicts, and journeys starting to come full to a circle. So I really enjoyed this first 3 episode arc, which was directed by Les Landau. I think he did the first. Yeah, I know he did Image in the Sand and Afterimage. Yeah.
It got me hyped when we were starting the 7th season. I remember being sad, like, this is it. This is the final season. What a bummer. I'm going to miss it. But then watching those first 3 episodes kind of got me hyped for it. Like, oh, this is going to be great. But then we go straight from that into the gem that is Take Me Out to the Holosuite. And I've always remembered it as a fun episode. But man, this last time watching it was just even more fun. It was just so happy. It was just like the happiest and most enjoyable and most fun episode in all of Deep Space Nine. The only other episode that makes me that happy, or second to it, is Explorers, the one with just like dad and son Sisko on that ship. I love that one. But yeah, remember Take Me Out to the Holosuite. And Max Grodenchik joined us for that review, which was freaking amazing. By the way, I'd be remiss if I don't mention that Nikki DeBoer did join us to review episode 2, I believe it was. So she was super fun. Mm-hmm. Episodes 2 and 3, Nikki DeBoer joined us to talk about being Esri Dax. But this third one, we had Max and Melissa, or fourth one.
Yeah, I mean, and he's hilarious in this episode, as he is in this entire 7th season. Actually, he just kills it. But this is one of the fun episodes. There's just something about this episode as far as being on location and playing baseball. It felt like we were all just letting loose, and it was like a party. It was the party on screen for the characters in the show. And I remember the energy just being so playful. Lunchtime, people are throwing balls around, hitting homers and stuff, and it was just fun to watch. That everybody had at this point just grown into friends, and we were like kids playing out there. It was like a little kick the can type moment for us.
Yeah. And it was just so cool having Max Grodenchik join us all the way from Austria, by the way. That was the first time we've ever had him on our show, and we absolutely loved it. That's one of the most memorable reviews for me personally that we've ever had. By the way, I'm wearing an Abyssinian Kiosk awesome shirt. It's called the Sisko Kid. Cirroc's sister makes that, and we are very happy to have been able to wear her wares during the course of this show. Episode 5, this really shows how the diversity of this show, as in like how varied the episodes were. You have those first 3, right, that are kind of dark, kind of heavy. Then you have Take Me Out to the Holosuite, and then it goes over to Chrysalis, I should say. And this was the one, remember, with those 4 genetically engineered people that were super smart. And then there's the lady that's like in a catatonic state. And then Bashir helps her get out of it so she could sing songs, or they're like doing the song singing scene and all that, which was, by the way, they were singing the notes to the Deep Space Nine theme song, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah. I remember these group of people that they brought in a couple of times. This was like their second episode.
Yeah,
these genius kids.
Kids.
Not my favorite, and the mutant genetic class, but they were trying to make a point about these enhanced human beings that have this ability, and that's basically who Bashir kind of his background is more like. So it's giving backstory to Bashir. It's kind of saying, the tribe that he belongs to or the group that he identifies with. Everybody else has kind of a backstory of identity, and Bashir needed something like that as far as what to compare him to. But I think the people that they brought are not nearly as dynamic as Bashir, and if they are in the same category or class of kind of intelligence, of augmented intelligence that he is, I feel like he's the best version of the representation of that.
Well, you had the one guy where, he did a backflip. That was kind of cool, or a front flip, whatever it was. Then you had the old guy who gave us the iconic line, "That's a stupid question." And then you had the catatonic lady. And then you had the poor lady who her genetically engineered thing was just that she was hypersexual. Like that was the extent. She was just really sexual.
Horny all the time.
Yeah. So who genetically engineered that? I'd like to know. Probably a Ferengi. But speaking of Ferengi, the next episode 6, was called Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. This says Avorta offers Odo valuable information on the Dominion in exchange for asylum. Meanwhile, Nog tries his Ferengi knowledge as he wheels and deals for a valuable piece of equipment for Chief O'Brien. Remember, this was kind of like Self-Sealing Stem Bolts Part 2, but it was just the Nog show, and it would have been so cool if it was Jake and Nog doing this, but obviously it was kind of a Starfleet situation, so it had to be just Nog.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that stands out in this episode is Nog actually uses his Ferengi intuition, instinct, and cultural values, but not in the same way, but for the benefit of Starfleet and procuring what Chief O'Brien needed. And I remember the moment when he tells Chief, like, you got to trust me and let me do it my way, and there was a bunch of fuss caused and people were missing things. I think I think he took some of the Klingons' wine. Didn't he take some of somebody's wine? Was missing some Klingon wine or something. But it all ended up falling into place at the end, and everybody got what they wanted. Basically, the Great River providing, and the philosophy of the Ferengi way proving to work once again.
Mm-hmm. Now, another great episode. We were, by the way, Melissa Longo joined us for episodes 5 and 6, as well as 4 with Max, which was taken out to the holosuite. But for episode 7, which was Once More Unto the Breach, our good friend and legendary Klingon, J.G. Hertzler, a.k.a. General Martok, a.k.a. Chancellor Martok, joined us. And it is never a dull moment when J.G. joins us.
No, not at all. He's quite a character, as everybody knows out there, and he's always been very graceful with us, and we are grateful to him for his participation in the show and just sharing his presence with us. He's so good at what he does. He's definitely a showman, and being a Klingon is perfectly suited for who JG is as a person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was really cool having JG. I mean, we figured like this is such a big Klingon heavy episode. Kor is returning, wanting to die like a Klingon warrior. And so what better Klingon to have for a Klingon episode? And JG, if I remember correctly, said that this was one of the best scripts he'd ever read, or maybe the best one he'd ever read. I feel like you may have even said this was the best Klingon episode you'd ever seen. It was basically an all Klingon episode, and there was so much depth. Usually we just see the Klingons, they're fighters, or they're brutes, or they're drunks, but we rarely get to see the ins and outs of all of it, and all the different characters, and we got to see their whole ship and their daily life. It's really a fun episode, and really probably the best homage to Klingons we'd ever seen.
I would agree.
Yeah, the next one was episode 8, The Siege of AR-558. And we were joined by Mr. Ira Stephen Bear, showrunner of Deep Space Nine, for this episode. This was the one. Oh, this was just so good. I was going to say this was the one where Nog loses his leg, but it's also the one where during the battle, there's like that beautiful music playing in the background, and it's like so iconic and great directing. There's just so much in that episode, and Quark is there.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the big Nog losing his leg moment.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what stands out the most.
Yep. It was just beautiful. And then it was beautifully written. It was like those guys, the Federation guys, had been there for like 3 months or 6 months or whatever it was. Half their people were dead. They were all sore. They were all tired. They were all frayed, edged. And it really shows, Ira really showed us like that it's not all glorious in war. Sometimes it's just filth and stress and hating people. And the one guy said like he even kind of like felt bad and missed this guy that he totally hated and annoyed the hell out of him that would never shut up or whatever, which was beautiful.
Yeah, I wrote down a speech from that episode that I thought was great when he was talking about humans being wonderful, friendly people as long as their bellies are full and their hollow suits are working,
Then we get hangry.
But take away their creature comforts, deprive them of food, sleep, sonic showers, and put their lives in jeopardy over an extended period of time, and the same friendly, intelligent, wonderful people will become as nasty and as violent as the most bloodthirsty Klingon. I thought that was just great writing, and I wrote that. That was one of the lines that stood out to me in this episode. That was just one of those truths that are hammered away in Deep Space Nine when they always take these kinds of Shakespearean moments to hammer away certain points in episodes.
Mm-hmm. Ain't that the truth?
And I thought this was one special one as well. Great writing, Ira.
So episode 9 was Covenant. And this was the one where Kira gets kidnapped and taken to Empok Nor, which was like the second Deep Space Nine. And she finds Gul Dukat is basically like the David Koresh or what. He's like a cult leader guy. And it's kind of weird, kind of fun, kind of interesting. I feel like even these episodes that kind of have lower IMDb scores, they still always end up being better than I expect. And I still always end up enjoying them and getting something out of it.
Yeah, what I got out of this, and this was for me the kind of existence of this Pa Wraith cult and all of that stuff. So they were really going heavy on the Pa Wraiths now. This was like them hinting at, okay, the Pa Wraiths are going to be very relevant in this season, and here comes an introduction episode into it. So I think that was really one of the main purposes of this.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's kind of like for a little bit of foreshadowing that this is going to be a big deal later on in the season. I hadn't thought of that. Next was, is this the one? Yes, this is. Oh wait, no, wait. This okay. I went. Ahead. It's only a Paper 10. Moon, and Melissa Longo joined us for this one, and this is, for a lot of people, their favorite and best Star Trek episode ever. It's certainly Aaron Eisenberg's crowning achievement, and we're basically out of great things to say about it because literally every great thing you could say about it is what we feel about this episode and Aaron and his performance.
Yeah, this is Aaron's visitor episode. This is this is his moment, and this is the moment that a lot of people can relate to because of whatever experiences they've had in life, as far as loss or personal anguish and suffering. So I think one of the things that I really, in reflection, besides the greatness of Aaron's performance in this, and me forgiving him for pushing me in the middle of that bar.
I was thinking about that. Rude.
But besides that, I want to say that I think James Darren and his performance in this episode, in my memory, was so impactful, and he's such the right person to have carried off the kind of performance that was required opposite of Nog and
Yeah.
what his
Nobody else
storyline
could have
was.
done that. Nobody
I
else.
think
I agree.
I think he was perfectly suited for that.
And it's
There's
funny. I was thinking the
yeah.
same thing, which was I remember, Aaron Eisberg. I remember Nog. I remember all of that. But what I realized this most recent time was James Darren too. James Darren and as Vic Fontaine really legitimized his presence on the show. He really showed that he was a necessary piece in this show, and it's beautifully performed.
Yes, and also the idea of this hologram being so instrumental in so many people's lives, like Kira and Odo, like Quark. I just feel like just the fact that this hologram almost as human as everybody else in this show, and sometimes even more so as far as how empathetic he is with other characters and what they're going through.
Right. So the next episode we had, this was also a great one because it was Prodigal Daughter. And a lot of people are saying, well, what was so great about that episode? It was kind of a little, it was a Dax episode. What's the big deal? First of all, it was great to see, Dax's backstory. Everybody else had 6.5 seasons to get their backstory, except for Worf. But she got hers, and we got the triumphant return of Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf to the show. So it was really cool to see him again.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of backstory in this episode. And Robert's been so amazing too, as far as giving us so much insight and giving us, walking us down memory lane and letting us know what was going on behind the scenes.
Wait, no, I'm so sorry. No, that's 2 episodes from now. Everybody's like, wait, Robert Hewitt? No. I got confused because he's written for a show called Prodigal Son. And so I got that mixed up. There's Prodigal Daughter. He's 2 episodes from now. So sorry. This one, actually, Nikki DeBoer joined us for this. All the wonderful things we have to say about Robert, we will talk about them. But right now, Nikki DeBoer was in this episode, Prodigal Daughter. Obviously, why would I think anything else? But yeah, she was the perfect guest for this one.
Yeah, this is the one with Bilby. There was a Orion Syndicate. Yeah,
that's right. And it was kind of herky jerky. And we're like, it's cool that they got like this little tie-in and throwback, but like, how does it all work out?
Yeah. This was one of those things where O'Brien's chasing down Bilby. So
what we're trying to say is it was great to see Nikki back. It was great to see Nikki again on our show.
And you know what? This episode was written by 2 people that we've always wanted to have on the show.
And David Weddle and Bradley Thompson?
Yeah.
We got to have those guys on our show.
Yeah. So one of these days we'll get them on, but this is one of their episodes. Shout out to Weddle and Thompson.
Yeah, one of these days we've got to write out all of the episodes that they wrote and then get like a top 5 David Weddle and Bradley Thompson episode.
Exactly.
That'd be cool. We're going to take a very quick break right now, and then we're going to jump back into the next 14 episodes, and we'll be right back. We will talk about Robert Hewitt Wolf on the 7th Rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7. It's our Season 7 review special. Say that 5 times fast. People are thinking it's not that hard, dude. So the next episode we're doing is episode 12, which was called The Emperor's New Cloak. And we were extremely fortunate enough to have Mr. Armin Shimmerman joining us for that episode, which is just always the greatest thing in the world, having Armin. This was Quark and Rom have to rescue Grand Nagus Zek, who's being held captive in the alternate universe. Remember? And then they go with like Quark and Rom and Esri go back there. It was like Mirror Esri. It's all kinds of madness.
Yeah, I remember the thing that sticks out in my mind from this episode was they had something cloaked. I think they had the cloaking device cloaked,
Yes, and they were carrying it. They did such a good job selling it. It's
Yes.
so good.
Yes, I remember that. And I also remember Sisko and I think it was Martok or yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember it was Sisko and Martok walking down the hallway, and Sisko stops and he's like, "What the hell is going on?" Quark's just like sitting there frozen, trying to, not be seen. And I remember
Mm.
that moment. That was one of the hilarious things about it. But this was a funny episode, actually, and
And fun,
usually it
yeah.
is. Yeah, fun and funny episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I just get a new appreciation for all these episodes that sometimes I don't remember them too well, or I think of them as like not some of the best. But then, like when I revisit them, I'm like, no, these are great episodes. They're all just so good. Once you know what to expect, and you're not like looking for a Dominion War episode or a character-driven episode or whatever it is that you're expecting. If you drop those expectations, you actually end up enjoying all of these. Speaking of which, episode 13 was Field of Fire. And this is when we did get to enjoy Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf finally back. He had been on our show 4 or 5 times previously. He's always been so wonderful with his time. And this time we were so excited to have him back because he was gone for all of season 6 and most of season 7. It was great to have him.
Yes, it was, and it always is great to have him. This was a murder mystery, which I really love. We talked about, Columbo and those kinds of murder mysteries. This also, started off with a drunk ensign who ends up dead, and they have to find out. Yeah.
And this was the ensign that wanted to hang out with O'Brien and Julian Bashir at the Alamo, and they're like, no, sorry about that. But then we see later on O'Brien and Bashir, like in later episodes, are just inviting Vic and inviting anybody. They're like, hey, come along. It's like, what the heck? You said no to that poor drunk ensign.
Yes. And this was also about the idea of beaming the bullet. Remember, the assassin was beaming the bullet through the different walls and whatnot. I thought it was a very clever kind of way to have a murder mystery.
The most memorable thing for me, I think, was that yellow imagery, the yellow view from the killer. It was really that. I remember that forever. Like I'll always remember, the idea of beaming the bullet is a brilliant idea. And then just, I don't know if that was in the script or if that was a directing choice, but whoever came up with that, I really liked it. It's very memorable to me.
Yeah, this was a great episode. And this was also the return of Robert Wolf after he had left the writing staff. And so he came back for this cameo, and I thought he did a great job with this episode.
Yeah, and so now episode 14 was Chimera, and Melissa was there with us. And of course, everybody's favorite Klingon, or top 2 or 3 Klingon, but probably your favorite, J.G. Hertzler was back to talk with us. This was a fun one too, and I think the 3 of us could not stop laughing at the things that JG was saying, because that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, he's a show. He's a performer, and that's why I say he's perfectly suited to be a Klingon, because that's part of the Klingon way, is this kind of grandeur performance of making bold statements and calling people out and saying, what are you going to do about it?
And so then the big twist to this one, though, was that he was playing a changeling. His name was Loss. And I remember we called our review episode Loss and Founder, which, come on, that's right. That's one of the best ever. Loss and Founder, because he was a changeling.
Yeah.
Anyway, he also played a Vulcan captain in Emissary, the pilot of Deep Space Nine. So it was nice to see him stretching his legs and playing different characters. So this was a totally different character, but our guest J.G. Hertzler was not different in any way. He was still the same raucous fellow we remember.
Yes.
All right.
This also advanced the Kira Odo love story in some ways, which was always moving forward in this season.
Now, the next one, there was no way Ira Stephen Bear was going to miss this one. This was Bada Bing, Bada Bang. And we did have Ira on for this one, as well as Melissa. And this is one of those extremely memorable episodes, like Take Me Out to the Holosuite, for example, where you just kind of, or Dr. Bashir, I presume, where it's kind of like the 007 episode where Sisko gets to play a villain. But this one was so memorable. It's so fun. It's so interesting. And it still was a little stressful. It was still a little tense at the end there. And Melissa showed us that she still had Aaron's outfit from when Nog was being like Bill the mechanic or whatever the heck it was. The maintenance guy. That's what it was.
Love this episode. This was the Ocean's 11 episode.
Yep.
And I think the thing that stands out in my memory was the final moment when they have to pull off the big thing, and they go through the timing of everything, and everything kind of goes off. It doesn't go off, according to plan. And I do remember it's fun to watch everybody dressed in different stuff. So Sisko had I think he had a tuxedo on, and Penny was wearing, Penny was wearing the old school kind of 50s outfit. I think there was a lot of really cool outfits that were drawn up for this episode, and I always like to see characters wearing different wardrobe and costumes.
Absolutely. And it was just great seeing Ira again. This was very clearly one of Ira's favorite episodes ever, and it's always interesting to hear writers who have written 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 episodes, 100, whatever it is, to say which ones are their favorites. And a lot of times it's different than what you might imagine, but it's usually in a lot of ways like the one that they just had the most fun writing. And clearly he had the most fun writing it. Then the next episode, I'm not going to try to, it's the one with the long Latin name. But all everybody at home needs to know is we finally got William Sadler to join our show, and we were so lucky and excited and fortunate to have him. It is Death himself from the Bill and Ted movies. William Sadler was awesome. He plays Sloan from Section 31.
Yeah. And how cool is William Sadler? He was so amazing as a guest, and just as cool as you kind of imagined that he would be, and so knowledgeable of his character. Give us so much background about his upbringing and how he approached characters, especially specifically the Section 31, and what it meant to him as far as politics, and how he viewed it through his own experience.
Right. And you're right. He did mention about his dad being in the military, so he would kind of harness a little bit. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. His upbringing had a big part in that. And his background, he's living up in upstate New York somewhere with all of those Coca-Cola signs and diners and chicken shack signs that were so cool.
Yeah, he said he likes the diner signs. But no, he gave us, and he's essentially he's the architect of this entire kind of Section 31 on screen, as far as what the character we see on screen. So he played the character very much like I can't remember the name of the characters inside of the Matrix, but the guys who were looking for Neo in the Matrix, the one Agent Smith.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. There's a likeness to Section 31 and how Agent Smith and those characters were played in the Matrix.
Same year too, I think, or very close, like 99, right around there. Okay, next, episode 17. This is it. This is Penumbra. This is when that final, 9 or 10 episode arc begins with Penumbra. For me, that's basically what I remember. Is this is the beginning of the end, and this is when Worf ends up missing, and Ezri Dax is like, "Nope, sorry, I'm just Ezri, but I'm also Dax, and I'm gonna go find my fucking husband." You know what I mean? And she just goes off and risks her life to find him.
Yeah. I think I remember Sisko giving a little bit of an, like, he gave a kind of a nod, like, I get it type of moment.
Eventually.
Eventually. There's a lot of stuff in this episode. This is also an episode where Jake gets approves as being, he's, I guess, basically becomes the best man, in this wedding that's coming up. So
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
because Captain Sisko proposes to Cassidy. Oh yeah, that
yes,
was great stuff. That's right. I love the Siskos. Best family in all of Star Trek history. All of it. I can't get
yeah.
enough. Um, so the next one was episode 18, Till Death Do Us Part. And this is we were just talking about the wedding, but then right after that, the
Yeah.
prophets tell Sisko that they don't approve of this impending marriage. And then
Mhm.
Ezri and Worf are now with the Breen. You, Jake Sisko, you're involved in this quite a bit. This was a fun one. Did we have a guest for this one? Oh, yeah, Melissa Longo joined us for this one to bring us her thoughts, which was great.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, this is around the time when we reviewed this episode when Louise Fletcher had passed away. So we did give
Right
a
around
tribute
then.
to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, another shout out to Louise Fletcher and the great performance that she gave as Kai Wynn. I thought was fantastic. This is the episode where the prophets speak to Kai. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually gets the vision. And
A
then
vision of
Sisko is
love.
yeah, and Sisko is basically told that he has to walk the path alone, and that if he does marry Cassidy, it's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which is
there's a lot going
rude.
on.
Those wormhole aliens are rude as hell.
All in
Legit.
your love life.
Yeah, mind your business, prophet. Jeez, don't you have some things to prophesize about? And they're like, yeah, this, you shouldn't do this. Um,
Yeah.
the next one, the truth is, everybody at home, we just rushed through those first 168 episodes just to get to Strange Bedfellows and have Mr. Casey Biggs join our show. And boy, it was down to the wire, but we finally got Mr. Casey Biggs on our show. So much fun. It was really cool catching up with him and hearing his insights. He really turned out to be such a man that's so passionate about the arts. Like he just, every time we would talk about his acting or directing or something, his eyes would like light up and he started like giving us like acting lessons, basically.
Well, Damar is such an unlikely character as far
Yeah.
as the rise that he has at the end of this show. Because I wouldn't have put it on him in the beginning watching this show, season 2, 3, 4, 5. I just didn't expect Damar to be such a relevant and pivotal character as he is going to become towards this last arc. And to see his kind of rise and ultimately change, I thought it's very transformative for him as a Cardassian to be able to show the kind of maturation that he does in very short time that he does in this episode, in these few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way the dynamic between him and Wei Yun.
Magic.
They're it's magical. The two of them going on camera together and the back and forth between them, wanting up each other on who's the real idiot.
And it's so cool that those two actors, Jeff Combs and Casey Biggs, are still friends, such close friends to this day. And they do their Rat Pack show with a few others, with Vaughn and Armin and Max, and sometimes Nanan in the past, sometimes Aaron as well. And it's so cool to see that they still have that little back and forth chemistry. I'm so glad that the writers found that and that those two actors perform that so well. It's such a gem to me.
Yes, it's magic.
The next one, episode 20, I believe Melissa Longo joined us for this one. Yes, The Changing Face of Evil. And in this one, Kai Wynn meets a Bajoran farmer named Anjol Tanan, and he's just but a little farmer who's worried about his crops, and if you'll remember that sweet man.
Simple man.
Yeah.
Very great performance by Mark Alimo.
Yeah,
fantastic. And we've been wanting to get him on the show to give him his flowers and tell him how great he is. But hopefully he hears through the grapevine that we've been talking really excellently about him, because he's just fantastic as an actor. And one of the things he does so well in this last arc here is be very convincing as far as concealing his motives and courting Kai Wynn. So I definitely was turned off by it. It was probably the most repulsive couple in television history. Is Kai
opposite for me? But go ahead.
No, I really do feel like it's one of the most repulsive couples between Ducat and Kai. Oh,
give me Ducat and anybody. I don't care who. Ducat and anybody. But what really stood out to me was that Mark Alaimo did such a great job of not acting like a Bajoran, but rather acting like Gul Dukat acting like a Bajoran. And it was perfect because you could see Gul Dukat playing the role of Angel, not Mark Alaimo playing the role of Angel. And that was magic to me. I loved it. I was very excited about that. The next one, speaking of amazing actors, the legendary Nana Visitor joined us for When It Rains, which is just, she's always been so great to our show, and we're always so fortunate and excited to have her. This is when Kira and Odo and Garrick finally go over to Cardassia to handle some business. This is where that final arc on Cardassia starts, and Nana was just so wonderful on our show.
Yeah, she's always been just a fantastic and tremendous guest on our show. And you know, like I've always said, I feel Kira's character is one of the most underappreciated characters in Star Trek, as far as her being a pioneer and in the kind of woman that she portrayed on television. I feel it was original and hadn't really been done. The dynamic of fierceness and the ability to be as soft and gentle and sweet at the same time,
just like Nana.
Yeah,
she's fierce and caring at the same time. You know what I mean? She's tough as nails and compassionate. She's amazing.
Yeah, it's the full spectrum, and she brings that in this character, and the depth by which she loves Odo. I think we also find out that Odo is kind of going through that sickness, and all of that is weighing in on their on their travel as well. I think Garrick he tries to tell Kira, hey, Odo's sick, and she's like, yeah, I know, and I already know. Let him go through it. So yeah, it was very powerful episodes. This last story arc, and love the combination of Garrick, Odo, and Kira together. Actually,
and then Damar getting in there, and then there was Damar, who was played by Vaughn Armstrong. He played Seskal. Seskal was great for we hardly knew him, but we got to see him in a couple episodes, and it was great to see Vaughn getting more work, and it was great to see for Star Trek because they probably love working with someone as amazing as Vaughn. The next one was episode 22, Tacking Into the Wind. And this was another one we've been waiting for almost 4 years, because we got to have Kitty Swink join us on the show, who played the Vorta Luarin. She wasn't on there very long, but we got to finally see her and her interpretation of what a Vorta could be. And she really nailed it. She knocked it out of the park. She also played a Bajoran in like season 3. But it was just so wonderful to have her on the show. Yeah.
We talked about the fact that she didn't get a chance to actually work across with Armin, which would have been, kind of the logical thing. But she was there to get this job done, and I thought she did a great job. She wasn't there for long, but I do remember the scene she was in, because obviously she was killed really, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And but I also thought it was clever for Odo to come in as the founder and disguise himself as the founder. And so when the founder came in, everybody was like, "Oh yes, the founder's here." Yeah. Great Loved disguise, very clever.
Mm-hmm. The next one is episode 23, Extreme Measures, and this kind of closes out the Section 31 and Sloan storyline, where Bashir and O'Brien go inside Sloan's head. Kind of a weird episode, kind of a fun one. It's kind of like the one little break before the storm. There's like the 9-episode arc, and then you kind of have this one that's a little off to the side to give you a little breather before the final 2 episodes.
Yeah, the whole Sloane's head, and he was dying, or he tried to commit suicide so nobody could get inside there. I thought that was it was clever. It reminded me of a movie that I watched when I was a kid, a movie called, if I'm not mistaken, Dreamscape. And if you ever watched it, those of you out there, it was something to the effect of, people fighting each other inside of a dream situation, right? So you're able to enter into someone else's dream, and therefore you have the power of dreams, so you could create anything. And it was a very creative way of viewing, the world. So I do remember that movie growing up. I loved that movie. I love the concept of them fighting in a dream. Later on, DiCaprio did a movie that was similar to that, as far as going into somebody's head in a dream. I forgot the name of that movie, but it was very recent.
Not to be confused with Herman's Head, or the 90s sitcom, or the really cool Disney show, or Disney movie called Inside Out, which was actually much better than I expected back in the day when I saw that one. It was cool.
Inception. Wasn't that the movie?
Could be. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Oh, Conception. Yeah, no, I've seen that one. Anyway, the next one, episode 24. This is the penultimate episode of Deep Space Nine ever. It is called The Dogs of War. Melissa Longo was here, and our good friend, very good friend of the show, Mr. Armin Shimmerman. There are a few people on this show that have been so great to us. None greater than Mr. Armin Shimmerman, who's been with us since the very beginning. Great episode, great guy.
Always a pleasure to have Armin and have us have him go through his perception of how he views Quark and what his experiences are. So much that he brings to this, and inventing an entire idea of a race of people, and the weight of that is something that I'm always impressed by, especially how Armin handled the Ferengi and how he approached Quark's character. I thought is just exceptional. But yes, he's always been amazing.
He has. And this better not be the last time we have him on our show, because we'll figure out any excuse to have him on our show, because he's just so great. He's so fun. He's so nice. And it's unbelievably genuine, his niceness and his compassion for people. And so people like that, just keep them close to you, because you don't want to let people like that go anywhere. Keep them in your life at all costs.
Two things I do remember about this episode was, one, that it was directed by Avery Brooks.
Yes.
And the other one was Odo's kind of line stood out to me in this episode, where he talks about the Federation claims to abhor Section 31's tactics, but when they need the dirty work done, they look the other way. And I thought that was, he was calling a spade a spade.
Yeah. All right. So now the final episode. Everybody knows and loves this one. What You Leave Behind. Speaking of everybody knows and loves, everybody knows and loves Melissa Longo, and everybody knows and loves Mr. Ira Stephen Bear, who also joined us for this last one. The four of us shed many tears, had a lot of laughs, had some great times. What a freaking masterpiece this show, this season, and that particular episode are. In my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion as well. I'd have to say they gave us so much. They wrapped up Ducat's story. They wrapped up Damar's story. They wrapped up Sisko.
And they gave us a few beginnings too. They almost gave us like a jumping off point where, even if there's no continuation of it, they know that in our minds, there's also new life breathed into their lives and the station.
Yeah, you got a little bit of like, I think O'Brien said he's going to move on and be a teacher, right? He's going to go be a professor. So he was moving kind of on forward in that way. And Bashir was starting to have feelings for Ezri, or at least they made their feelings finally known to each other. And so that was the budding love kind of there. We saw Court kind of going back to, business as usual. So we knew that life was going on the station. You saw Jake looking out of the window. You saw Kira in charge now. And so there was a lot of
new beginnings,
new beginnings, but there was also closure to Odo, kind of joining joining the founders.
Sisko, Ram and Lita are going to go be, ramen noodles are going to go be, the Grand Negus, and so that they have a new beginning, but it's also closure to that story of them on Deep Space Nine. It's just the best episode ever. Basically. Yeah,
it was crazy. Garrick had great moments with Mila at the end of that. Nog had some great moments. I just remember almost, it was like
everybody got their moment. Everybody got
their moment. Yeah, it's like the last day at high school when everybody's going off and everybody's going to go their own way. Somebody's going to join college here. Everybody's going different ways, and you're signing each other's yearbooks, and it's just like you're feeling all of the memories of those special moments that you guys shared together, and you don't know when you're going to see each other or if you're going to see each other, but the optimism of approaching life is there too. Life in front of you and all of this adventure in front of you is also facing you. So it's a weird moment where you're embracing and thankful for the things that happen, but you're letting go of those things so that you can make room for the new things that are to come. It's this very kind of happy and sad moment, and that's how I felt in the final episode. I felt happy that I got closure to a lot of things, and that we all look for closure in life. You want to bury your loved ones. You don't want them to just be missing. You want closure in life. You want to be able to apologize for your mistakes to the people that you've done wrong to. You want closure in life. It's a good thing to have in life. It's kind of a human nature thing. And I felt like Ira and the writers gave us a lot of closure in this episode, and
everything we wanted really
they gave us everything we wanted. So I'm grateful for them taking us on the ride with them and giving us such a good show with so much in it.
Yeah. That was Ira the person, or Ira the writer, and Ira the person gave us the show everything we wanted and more by being a guest, telling us his stories and his memories, rewatching the episodes for the first times in his life since they aired 23 years ago. That's incredible. Yeah. What a guy. He's just been so amazing and so amazingly supportive to us. Can never say enough good things about Ira the person as well as the writer. But speaking of closure, we got to close this segment out and bring in the free-for-all to talk a little bit more about Ira, Armin, Nana, Casey, and all of them and all of season 7. On our way out, let us give very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, Timothy Baum, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan. You know him. Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Erika Stroem, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, DQ, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Radek Orszewski out in Southwest Poland, Henry Unger, live from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. We will be right back on the 7th rule with the free-for-all. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule Deep Space Nine Season 7 Extravaganza. Boy, this is a serious one. With Cirroc Lofton, of course.
Hello.
Oh, cool. Look, Sue's got her background of the Japanese gardens in LA, which doubled as Starfleet Academy. Sue Gruner's here.
Yay!
We also have Eve England out in Wales. I wanted to say she's getting ready for an ugly sweater contest, but I know it's not an ugly sweater because she's wearing Abyssinian kiosk just like I am. Cirroc's.
That's awesome.
It looks like a Christmas tree, which is really cool. Kind of like a Christmas tree.
Ooh, and she's wearing a seventh
special edition.
We gotta come up with the Delta Christmas tree. That's gonna be the next hot seller.
Mm-hmm. Carrie Schwent is on her way to Phantom of the Opera, so she'll be practicing her singing voice. Matt Boardman is also here hanging out outside of Deep Space Nine. We've got Mai live in Tokyo celebrating a victory for Japan in the World Cup. Tierney C. Dieckmann is wearing a radical baseball hat, just like Scott Jensen is, and she's showing off her radical Seventh Rule shirt that Scott Jensen designed. You two are like in sync today.
The text beforehand or anything.
Mm-hmm. TJ Jackson-Bey is making his triumphant return to our show. That's gonna be fun. Melissa Longo is here, bringing the smiles and the spark. Chris McGee is also here. He's got the coolest mustache. I don't know. We'll see when Bill Erickson shows up on the roundtable. But
Mustache wars.
So far, Chris is undefeated. All right. Let's get into it. You guys. We have something. It's a J.R. Poole creation. Everybody listening in, it's going to be boring for you for the next 20 seconds or so. But those of you that are watching, this will be fun. So this is from our good friend, Mr. J.R. Poole, who makes amazing designs. He's super talented. He sent us some posters that I can't really get out of this thing.
Mai, what's that on your background? What is that ship?
Welcome to Deep Space Tirith.
Oh, this
Minas Tirith. In
wow.
Second Age 3320.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Having a lot of Tolkien in my life this week. Sorry, I just had to go with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, Maya and I were talking about that earlier this morning.
That's an original. That's a my original.
Same color as the station, I hoped. We'll see.
Drum rolls,
look,
guys.
look.
Check this
There
out.
it is.
So here are the posters.
Sweet.
It's one for me, Melissa, and Cirroc, one for each of us.
Sweet.
And Mr. Aaron Eisenberg is out there making sure everybody realizes how awesome he is, because he's the greatest human ever. So thank you to
When is
J.R.
that movie
Poole.
coming out? It looks like a
Right?
I want to see that. It looks awesome.
movie.
Is this
looks like a
is it
movie,
a comedy? Is it like a spy thriller? Is it like a Seinfeld show? You know, Melissa's
Yes.
like the Elaine Bennis that's like
Oh
pushing
my
us.
god.
I'll be the Kramer, I guess.
I watched that.
Okay.
Cirroc, can you practice your I don't want to be a pirate?
You've got that one down packed.
Thank you to
Oh,
J.R.
that's
Poole. Thank you
funny.
so much.
Yeah, thank you.
He sent
JR.
us more stuff too. More on that on a different show, though. Anyway, let's get to it. Cirroc and I just had a blast. Eve England, what are your 3 favorite episodes of season 7?
Oh my goodness. I knew you were going to ask something tricky like this. I think I'm not going to choose 3, I think. I was thinking about this earlier and thinking, right, okay, Ryan's going to ask which are my favorite episodes. And I was just thinking about it and I was thinking, well, I don't think you can really kind of just pick out favorite episodes, because when I was just looking, I looked through the companion, I just looked back to remind myself of what the episodes were. And I just kind of see season 7 as this chapter by itself. And I just don't think you can really sort of separate it. It's almost inseparable from the whole story that we've had before. We've been in all the adventures with all of the characters, all of the different story arcs right the way through from day one. So to me, I just think you need to see it all as one big sort of finale, one big sort of hurrah for the whole series, because it just had everything. It had the humorous episodes, you know, the Holosuite one and the Bada Bing one, but then you had the sort of, you know, the humanity of the episodes, all of the sort of personal stories that you had right the way through, and all of the coming together of the different characters and the relationships. And then you had the complexity, and you had the darkness, you had Section 31, and all of those really difficult questions that they were kind of asking now, but that they've been asking right the way from day one. So I just think all of that coming together as this one holistic finale is, to me, I just couldn't pick one over the other, because they all just had their own role in the story arc as, you know, as the season 7. So I'm going to sit on the fence and not choose 3.
So I heard "Take Me Out to the Holosuite," "Bada Bing, Bada Bang," and what you leave behind was what I heard there.
And all of the others.
Great point, Steve. So sorry about Wales in the World Cup, though. We're rooting for you for sure.
Yeah.
Carrie Schwent is also here. She has no problem because she's pretty much didn't like 22 of the episodes, right?
I liked them all to greater and lesser degrees, but I do have favorites.
Wow, great background.
I'll rank them in order. So number 1 is "Take Me Up to the Holosuite," because I am a crazy Cubs fan, so I gotta do that one. Watching Odo practice his umpire calls in his office just is the best, and I love a good argument at home plate with the umpire. Those are just way too much fun to watch. And number 2, because I love Ocean's 11, the Bada Bing, Bada Bang. That one is just way too much fun, just the whole way through. And kind of tied for 3rd is The Emperor's New Cloak and Treachery, Faith, and the Great River.
Ooh.
Yeah, The Emperor's New Cloak, my favorite part of that will always be, "Oh, Mr. Regent." Bless Rom's heart.
Yeah, those were good. So a couple Ferengi episodes tied for 3rd place there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Good stuff. And great background, by the way. You've got every single episode in your bracket. Hang on, everybody. I'll show you.
On my tablet and just paused on each of the title shots and then took a picture of it with my phone. And then I found a great app that lets you throw in as many photos as you want, and then created this.
That's awesome.
I'll lean back a little further so you can really get a good look at it.
You've got to send us that, Carrie, so we could use that as our thumbnail on this show. That is brilliant work. You spent a lot of time on that. We can't let that go to waste. That looks great.
It took a couple hours.
That's awesome.
Next is Dr. Susan V. Gruner out in Starfleet Academy, San Francisco. How are you? Do you have a couple favorites? A few? Are you going to buck the system like those Welsh? Oh, you're muted. So sorry.
Sue, you're muted.
You're still muted, Sue. We can't hear you, but it looks like you're saying something really interesting, though.
I'm muted?
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. I agree with Eve, but I still picked out 5. I refuse to pick out 3.
She's making up for Eve's lack of...
So my 5th favorite is The Siege of AR 558. 4 is Chimera. 3 is Changing Face of Evil. 2 is What You Leave Behind. And 1, I think we all know what that is. It's Only a Paper Moon.
Yes. Yes. When you said The Siege of AR 558, I had a feeling that Paper Moon would be number 1. Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks, Eve. Those are all 10s in your book, right? Tierney C. Dieckmann is here wearing some cool garb by the Seventh Rule and Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
Do you have a couple favorites? Do you have a few? What's your story?
It's me. Of course I have a few. Remember when you used to get annoyed at that? What are your 3 favorites? And I pick like 6, and now everybody's like, no, I don't have 3 favorites.
I forgot.
Yeah, no, there's no way to pick 3, but of that are on equal par. Obviously love Take Me Out to the Hall Suite. Just attire wise. It was my first thought of just I gotta wear my hat today. It wasn't laziness at all. No. But it's more just the obviously I kind of consider the last bit of the arc, the 8-episode finale arc, is its own almost mini season in a way, and the rest of it kind of falls into more the rest of the series. I don't know how to entirely explain it, but I was looking through each season this morning and like which is the best season to me, which is my favorite as far as entertainment value. And I think it was maybe 2 and 4 or 5. I can't even remember now. But I did notice with this one that more of the episodes, and I've got the list I was looking at here. I think what I really like about this one, especially with, we've got some greats. Whose noise is that?
I don't know, but it's building up a nice little ambiance for us.
Not mine.
That might be me. Hold on, I'll mute.
Okay.
But we've got Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite, of course, Bada Bing, Bada Bang, Paper Moon. But then we have Prodigal Daughter, the Siege of AR 558, and a few others. Something about the eclectic episodes in this season speak to me personally a bit more, which I won't go into all the details or anything, but it ends up being a more special season, even though it's at the end, and I think Anne-Marie spoke on it, of just you get to season 7, it's like, oh, it's so melancholy because you're at the end. But I can't really pick specific favorites. I tried. I think as far as just general enjoyment, though, probably has to be probably Paper Moon. And it's melancholy, but it speaks to me the most, and it also has its entertainment, and it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful episode.
Yeah.
And it's great. It really is. And this season has some of the best Nog episodes too. It really does. But yeah, there are no specific favorites, unlike every other season where I can pick out anywhere between 2 and 5. Not a specific one. It's all good. They did well. They did very well to end this one.
Okay, so what I heard was all of them except for Covenant. So we know which one's your least favorite.
Which one's Covenant again?
When Kira goes and sees the cult.
Empok Noor.
Yeah.
That one, other than all of the cults, as morbid and horrifying as they are, also fascinating, it was just kind of ridiculous. But it felt a little shoehorned, but yeah, we won't go into that. In an era,
it was a necessary episode, as Cirroc pointed out, which is it showed us that the paw wraiths were going to be an element in coming up in the season, which is a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. Anyway, all right, moving on to my Live in Tokyo. Do you have some favorites? What do you think?
favorites, a little bit like definitions. I'm more of a spectrum kind of person.
Like that.
The whole season, tough to I was thinking about how to do that. And so what I thought would be an interesting thing to do was imitate you and create an award for one category, which can only be encapsulated in one season. And I mean, with monster performances by some of the industry's best, the Renees, the Armands, the Averys, how do you do it? Listening to Nana talk about how she had such passion at that time in her role and wanting to create messages and performances for people 20 years later. I mean, where do you go with this to create the right award? So, best bromance, best portrayal of a son who's lost his father by this gentleman here.
Mhm.
Best love story, best kiss. There was a lot of stuff. So I chose one. It was best evolution of a single character in a single season. I mean, Quark going from greedy to calculating, only out for himself, Ferengi to team player, caring about others. No. Kira swallowing her hatred of the Cardassians. No. Sisko learning he was a half god. No. I wanted to go somewhere else with this. The one character who faced a hurdle of indeterminate height in the form of meeting her professional challenges was wholly unprepared for her duty at the outset, but spent every second gathering skills, who could look a Klingon straight in the eye and tell him what was what, who, with a handful of other characters, remains in the last few minutes with Kira, Quark, Nog. I mean, I got to award this to Ezri. I think that the way Nikki portrayed that character was just off the charts great. And in this one category, she nails it. There are a lot of categories and a lot of awards to be given out, but I'm going to give this statue to Nikki for her portrayal of Ezri on this. And I mean, the individuality that she brought to that, everybody loves what Terry did. Her stuff was amazing, but this was a challenge. And that individuality is to me, it's what the meshing of the individual characters and so forth, forming this society on the station is what DS9 is all about. So that's why I went with this one today rather than a favorite episode.
How fun. You had us all guessing. This was good stuff. Thank you, Mai. Matt Boardman is also here. He never makes us guess. He's a straight shooter. How are you, Matt? You have any favorite episodes?
Oh man, it's funny because when you first asked that question, I was like, oh, I gotta think about that, because it's funny, like the 7th season of Deep Space Nine, like I always think back to like the 7th season of Next Gen, because there's like there's episodes, like when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know, there's some of those that are a little hit and miss for me, but then I was like, okay, I gotta go over this episode list, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, wait, no, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one. So I think, man, yeah, there's some great ones. Like let's, and not just because this is the 7th rule, but It's Only a Paper Moon, I think that's a top episode for this season. I mean, you guys talked about it in your review of the episode, but man, Aaron just knocked it out of the park in that episode. I mean, it never fails.
Goose pimples.
Yeah, it never fails to invoke emotions in me. I find myself, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm here working by myself watching this thing, nobody's seeing me, because it really is. But that's one of the great things I love about Star Trek, is it like, it's like, I don't know about you guys, but anytime I watch through this, it speaks to me in different ways depending on where I'm at in my life. And so this is one of those episodes that every time I watch it, it brings new meaning to me depending on what the circumstances are in my life and everything like that. And so I don't know, I just think that to me, that's the mark of good literature, entertainment, whatever you want to call Star Trek good entertainment, I guess, is that it touches us and moves us. And I felt like, this season there was a lot of good stuff there, with Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. I absolutely love that. And I mean, the Great Material Continuum, let's that to me is so freaking fantastic. Like it reminds me of an episode of MASH, which I love MASH. And with with Nog doing all the swapping around of everything, and I crack up at the guy who loves to get his picture taken behind famous Starfleet captains' desks. I feel like I would be that person. So, that was a great one. I thought that the start of the season was fantastic. We got to see some more Benny Russell, which I thought was another interesting and great addition to the tapestry of Deep Space Nine. I think I saw on Twitter yesterday that Seventh Rule had someone had done a painting of Benny Russell, and the reflection. Oh my gosh, that was
Jenny Johnson.
Jenny Johnson, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she's been a part of our virtual TrekCon stuff in the past. Her art is amazing.
Yeah. So good. Like that I don't know, that one gave me goosebumps just to look at that image. So yeah, I think I think overall there were just, like I said before, bada bing, bada bang. I think that's fun. I love Ocean's 11, and that one never fails to put a smile on my face. And then because it's kind of like that one is like it's almost like that big breath right before we head off into the rest of the season, the ending of the series, man, Avery, man, that guy, he's got a voice. I went to STLV back in, what was it, 2008, and he was there, and they were one of the after hours events that they were offering was it was Ron Jones conducting the Las Vegas Philharmonic, and so they had a bunch of instruments up on the stage there, and they had a piano. And Avery sat down at the piano and started playing and singing. And it was like he hypnotized the entire crowd. It was just like, you just kind of, and then he stopped, and it was like, you had this moment where I was like, oh man, where am I? Like it was so great. So I love hearing his voice. I love hearing him sing. He just seems like a really, really awesome guy. So, and that was also the convention where they give you the option to purchase, as my light falls, to purchase a picture. And I was like, I have to get Avery because I love Sisko. And I'll never forget. I actually think I hid the picture because it looked. My eyes are very sensitive to bright light, and so I kept blinking. So they had to do like 6-7 takes. At which point, Avery started tickling me in my ribs. And he's going, laugh, Matt, laugh. So it looks like my picture seriously looks like I'm being goosed while Avery's standing. I'm kind of going, it's just like, it's the worst thing. But anyway, so that's off topic, but it just made me think. So those are some of my favorites. Like I said, great, some really good episodes that when you look at the overall breakdown, there were some really, really good powerhouse episodes.
Yeah. Great stuff there. Real quick, check it out. This is the aforementioned painting by Jenny R. Johnson. Cirroc, you will remember her, but look at this. So it's a nice little Sisko Benny Russell thing. Check it out.
Nice. Beautiful. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's not the finished one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She posted the finished product.
Okay, Melissa, wow. I'm sorry. Let me scroll up here. I just liked that one. Okay.
No, but
she's like, I'm gonna keep saying it until you fix it, Ryan.
She's got the Deep Space Nine music playing in the background on the video, so it's just like, I don't know. It really.
Yeah, you're right.
It's beautiful.
Look at the typewriter. So much better.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
The detail in his white shirt there, all the folds and the clothing and everything.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Unbelievable.
That's
and
great.
The pants and the suspenders. Oh, so good.
All right. Yeah. Great stuff. Thanks for keeping us honest there, Melissa. You're right. That was much better, that other one. Chris McGee is also here. Welcome to the show, Chris. Do you have a couple favorites? What do you think of season 7?
Oh, love season 7. And I will try to keep this relatively brief. I will say, however, that the writers had a tall order this season.
Yeah.
They not only had to close out the entire series, they also had to introduce and flesh out an entirely new character. And they went above and beyond and even made the end of the series an entire 10 episode arc. So kudos to the writers on this season. They blew my mind. And with that in mind, of course, my top 3, number 3 on this list would be Prodigal Daughter, because that's probably the only time we actually really see anything of Ezri's family and her backstory.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not even sure we saw any of Jadzia's family, if I remember correctly. So even
most
Ezri
we got was her swimming
there.
in milk.
Yeah, that was about it. Number 2, I would have to say, is Once More Unto the Breach, to give Core a fantastic send-off and a great Klingon episode there, I think. And of course, number 1, I mean, it has to be said, it's only a paper moon for reasons that I won't even begin to reiterate, have already been articulated much more eloquently here than I could possibly do justice to. So there's my top 3 and my thoughts of season 7.
Man, when you said it's only a paper moon, Melissa's smile got so gigantic there. That was awesome. Thanks, Chris. Well, Melissa, your thoughts? Do you have some favorites?
I have a lot of favorites. It's only a paper moon, definitely, for obvious reasons. It's an amazing episode. Siege at AR 558. Right?
AR, yeah, you got it.
Okay. That's a great episode too, although it's hard to watch. I'm always bawling at the end of that episode, but it's so well done. And and then Take Me Out to the Holosuite. I love that episode so much. It's underrated, and so is Bada Bing, Bada Bang. But and then the final arc, I chose Tacking Into the Wind because it was such a phenomenal episode.
And Kitty was in it.
So good. Yes. Yes. So good. So many great moments between everybody in the cast. So very strong season, and I love this show for all the stories that it told and for giving us this family. So
all right, great stuff. Excellent. TJ Jackson-Bey, thank goodness for Deep Space Nine. Otherwise, we would have never met you. It's good to see you back, buddy. What do you think of this season?
It's great to be back. First of all, I want to invite Matt and Melissa from outside of Deep Space Nine and into Quark's Bar.
Yay!
I was, I was just thinking, I was like, man, that's an awesome background, TJ.
And Quark's there.
Yeah.
I'll gladly take a glass of root beer.
I was going to say, you have some root beer on tap?
Yes.
Oh, so it's Morn.
Yeah.
He's back there. So is it really Quarks if Morn isn't there? Well, I tried to choose 3 episodes or 1 episode or something, and really in season 7, it's hard to pick a favorite. But so I tried to make like 4 episodes that I didn't think would be mentioned, although I think 2 or 3 of them already have been, and then one that you just can't not mention. And it's not the obvious one, but it's kind of obvious. Okay, number 5, Prodigal Daughter, because I love, Ezri's dilemma at the end of, kind of feeling responsible for what happened with her brothers, but not really being able to do anything about it. I feel like I agree with Chief O'Brien that, there wasn't really anything she could do, but she still feels this kind of guilt that she was able to get away from that situation and her brother ended up suffering. And number 4 is Covenant.
Yes.
I know, right?
Should have mentioned that.
It was mentioned, but it was mentioned
Yeah.
in the opposite direction. First of all, it was stupid for Dukat to try to bring Kira. If it wasn't for that, he probably would have succeeded in his efforts. But I also like watching the journey of Vedic Fala in that episode because he truly believes, and there's probably a reason for that. And the only reason we see them as bad is because our protagonist believes something different. And I wonder, if that would change if we didn't have already a preconceived idea that the pirates are bad. Although
Right.
Dukat is clearly bad.
Hey,
Number
no.
3, this was also already mentioned, was Chrysalis.
Mm.
I don't think, no, maybe that one wasn't mentioned. Chrysalis. Watching Serena go through that journey and, also watching, kind of this slow motion train wreck that Bashir is clearly going into. Even though O'Brien warned him and he didn't listen, the scene where she actually, opens up and she's like, what do you want me to do for you? I owe you everything. And he realizes that he's made this, mistake, is kind of a one, well acted, and 2, a heartbreaker, and well performed. So that's one of my favorites. Number 2 is After Image, because, this one really kind of introduces us to Esri Dax. And she goes through a range of emotions in this episode. She's confused about who she is. She's trying to find herself. So she, goes to what she knows, counseling. She starts to do that. And she's trying to counsel probably the hardest case she'll ever meet, which is Garrick. But I immediately gained respect for her because she did not back away from that challenge. She went back even after he ripped her one and then said, leave before I say something unkind. And so that's just one of my favorite episodes, ever. And also Garrick's performance, Andy Robinson, of course, knocked it out of the park. And watching him go through this journey of, just kind of realizing that, the work he's doing, well-intentioned, is not where he thought he would be, 10 years ago. So, that was really an interesting journey to watch, especially, having watched this arc over the years. Number 1 is the episode that is hard not to mention. And there are many in this season, but I have to say that What You Leave Behind is the best finale ever. It ties up so many storylines. It gives us, really a moment with all of these people that we've come to love in these 7 seasons. It gives us a moment to kind of, just sit with the fact that, this thing is kind of coming to a conclusion. Yeah, they'll go on in each of their own ways, but what did Vic say? Like the man said, nothing lasts forever. The best finale ever. I just really can't say enough about it.
Quick correction. The best finale ever, everybody knows, is the counterclock incident from Star Trek, the animated series. But anyway, you were saying. Everybody knows that.
Agree to disagree.
All right. I think we got all we got your 4 and your bonus that had to be mentioned, of course, because we cannot go without mentioning the greatest. Thank you, TJ.
And Paper Moon, you cannot say Paper Moon. I'm sorry, I tried not to say it. I knew everybody else was going to say it.
And Paper Moon. Goldie Scott Jensen is here, and he is raring to go, wearing his awesome hat matching Tierney. What are your thoughts, Scott?
I
Scott's
wore my hat
thoughts.
to Scott's thoughts. That's a whole little corner there. I wore my hat to keep my hair in place too. So I want to make sure I was top notch here. I was thinking about my favorite episodes and tried really hard to get it under 5, like everybody was saying, let alone 3. But making these cuts, it has to be made. Then I don't know. Can I make the Siege of AR 558 and Only a Paper Moon? Really feels like they go together so well, obviously because of Nog's story. But if you watch it back to back, which I have before, you really see a very important message of not only survival, but life after survival, which I think is very important. It doesn't get talked about a lot. Usually it's like, get through your tough stuff and then everything will be okay. But it's Nog facing life after he's survived one of the worst tragedies a person can survive. So I would definitely put those two up top. And none in any order. It's got to be Take Me Out to the Holosuite up there too, because that is one of my favorite episodes just of television, because everybody is so honestly happy in that episode. Everybody is having a great time, and it came through on film. It came through in audio. It came through every shot of it. It just looked like that was like the most fun family vacation you could possibly see. And I love every last minute of it, and it holds one of my favorite Star Trek lines of all time, and that is "To manufactured triumph."
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. A line that I try to live by every day. Manufactured triumph.
Death to the offense.
Opposition.
Yes.
Find him and kill him.
Find him and kill him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Manufactured triumph.
Manufactured triumph.
Here.
Forever.
All right. Was there another one, Scott?
No, well, if I'm putting Siege and Paper Moon together, I would to have another third. I would say Bada Bing. Definitely.
Nice.
It's another great episode. It's another home run. Costume design, everything all together. But it's really hard to pick a top anything. If I could pick my top DS9 episodes, it would probably start with Emissary and end with What You Leave Behind. So, and all the ones in between.
Yeah.
'Cause it's so hard.
All right, everybody. So after this, everybody, our next episode will be a review of an episode that Cirroc and I have never seen or reviewed. It is season 2, episode 9, Second Sight. Last time this was done 3 years ago. Melissa Longo reviewed it beautifully with Heather Jordan and Kat Mark. Cirroc and I were just chilling, whatever. And so we will be doing that as a fun special bonus episode. Then after that, we will do a Deep Space Nine series in review. We'll be closing out the series. And then after that, we have our 7th Rule 200th episode special. So we'll talk about Deep Space Nine. We'll talk about the 7th Rule, and we'll look forward and ahead to the next generation. So there's plenty more Deep Space Nine to talk about. But before we go, Cirroc, any final thoughts?
No, I just want to, it's hard to pick a favorite episode. Obviously, I think that it's Only a Paper Moon. If I had to pick one episode, would be the one, because it just was so poignant and so terrifically performed by Aaron. And I think that's the one that's going to be my number one. As far as fun is concerned, I do think the Holosuite was just so much fun. Take Me Out to the Holosuite was just fun doing, fun watching. So there's different reasons why I like different things. I have to agree with TJ. I think the last episode is by far the best last episode of the series that I've seen, where it gave me so much closure as well as opened up the door for kind of what would be to come, moving forward. So it gave me a little bit of everything at the end. But I also want to say one episode that wasn't talked about, but I do love it. Yeah. One episode that I didn't hear anyone mention, but I really love this episode is because it brought up so much about things that we're having to discuss in the headlines today when we talk about biological weapons and things of that nature. And that was Inter Arma and Silent Legis. And Yeah,
Nobody
it was-
mentioned that one because nobody wanted to say that.
Nobody wants to pronounce it.
Yeah,
Go on, Ryan. You know you want to say the title.
Holy cow.
yeah.
We even avoided it in the first segment.
Yeah, we did, but it's just such a good
Yeah.
such a good, they talked about the Tuvin syndrome and the war game strategy and quantum AI computing. I mean, these are all kinds of things that we're dealing with today, and I thought it was really insightful for them to write an episode that is so relevant in today's conversations. The one line that stands out to me is he says, "Spare me the ends justify the means speech, and I'll spare you the we must do what's right speech," or something to that degree. And I really love the. By the way, also another person we didn't get to have on the show, but whose impact on the show is absolutely worth paying homage to, is Ronald Moore. I feel like the impact of his writing on this show, some of my favorite episodes are Ron Moore episodes. And, the way he puts these dialogues together, the way he puts these episodes together. The Paper Moon, for example, was a Ron Moore episode, the teleplay at least.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that he gets his credit. We definitely have given Ira his praise, but Ron Moore has been absolutely phenomenal in this show, and the fingerprints that he has left all over the
All right.
show.
So
definitely.
next time he asks to come on the show, we'll say yes. All right.
Yeah. Let's say yes.
He's earned it, right?
Nobody does Klingons better than Ron Moore.
No, he's just the
Oh,
best. He's amazing.
He's so good. He's so good.
All right. Well, I guess that's about it for all of us. Fun recap of season 7. We've got a few more Deep Space Nine episodes up ahead, and we will see you soon for all of those, everybody. Thank you to Eve, Carrie, Matt, Chris, Mai, Galdu Scott, the evil one, Melissa, the nice one, Tierney, Sue, and TJ for Cirroc, Lofton, myself, Aaron Eisenberg, and Ronald D. Moore. Always remember the 7th rule.